It's time to go racing here at the Big House. Today, for the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship, Off-Road's best will show what they're made of at this wonderful racing facility. Hello everyone, welcome to RaceSpotTV, to the iRacing Esports Network, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by Evan Pasoko for what is bound to be a very short but entertaining evening of racing action. Evan, you and I, we were just discussing how short course racing is maybe some of the most entertaining on iRacing, and it doesn't necessarily always get the focus it deserves.
That's true, and to your point, right, this isn't going to be a long night, but it's going to be a fun night. The beautiful thing about off-road e-short course racing here on the service is it is intense from the get-go, and I think no further proof than that for this Crandon Championship, the fact that we've got 40 of the very best on the service. Only half of them are actually going to make it to the race that matters tonight, so this intensity is getting kicked off right off of the bat, and there is no better place. All the tracks are fun, don't get me wrong, but there is no better place to settle a short course championship than here at the Big House.
Especially when we have the land rush start, which means we'll be 10 wide on the very start, 2 rows deep. Going to be a lot of fun. You talked about the very important thing. The super session has meant that 40 drivers were hoping to race in today's 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship, but we only take the top 20. Drivers have had their opportunity Monday through Friday to compete and gain some points. Only the top 20 advance, but still have to qualify through 3 laps, 7 minutes. Of course, track evolution will play its part as we work to the heat, a 6-lap race where the result there sets the feature grid. But again, Evan, let's be honest, doesn't matter that much with a 10-wide land rush start.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? I mean, we'll try to pick into play where those beneficial areas are. I'm sure if it was up to you, you'd take the quote-unquote pole position every single time. That would have put you all the way to the inside of that 10-wide front row for the land rush. But the problem is, if you don't nail the start, that inside doesn't matter, because the next corner is a left-hander, then you're on the outside. So I've seen the inside, I've seen the outside, heck, I've seen the middle win out on the land rush start. So this race really is going to come down to execution. Get through your heat, don't overthink your position for that feature race. Get into it, and then everybody has got a shot from that point on.
You can see as well the car stats, 900 horsepower, still just under 2,000 kilos, 4,000 odd pounds, but it rockets off the line. 3.1 seconds. It's the adaptability over the bumps, though, that makes this car such a beast. And of course, we've got plenty of the World Championship caliber drivers out there and getting ready to roll, but they're all competing in an iRacing special event, and we're just coming off the iRacing Petit Le Mans last weekend, the 10-hour dash that the real race is just finishing up now as well. But it's all about diversity. This is the great thing that I love, not just about special events, Evan, but about iRacing as well. Whether it's dirt road racing, dirt oval racing, or even the Daytona 500 all the way back in February, the special events have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you're certainly going to have drivers on the service who focus on a certain discipline, but I think some of the most impressive drivers are those who go out sent to compete on the iRacing special events calendar for a season. From the high banks of the Daytona International Speedway to the road course there at the World Center of Racing, here on dirt, to Bristol, to Bathurst, for the Petit Le Mans, the Chili Bowl, the Winter Derby. There is so many different types of cars, types of disciplines, and types of racetracks that we've seen all season long, and it's kind of disappointing that we're getting down to the end of it, but there's still an exciting 5 more weeks left of special events after this Crandon Championship. And the good news is, once we get through the Chili Bowl, we're less than a month away from the Roar next year. So the special events calendar truly is some of the most exciting stuff here on the service, and we're happy that everybody's joining us here again for another one as these Pro 4, the big, powerful 4-wheel drive off-road trucks, get their moment in the spotlight.
And I think it's where a lot of people may try the truck for the very first time, say, you know what, we enjoy it, we have a lot of fun, let's join some of these drivers. On the very bottom of the screen, in virtual reality, real estate person or salesman Sean Winkler with the, of course, lean going in, classic sim racer going on. Aaron Vasquez from Altus Esports is alongside Crystal King, while at the top right of your screen, Keenan Kusin and his spotter, iRacing's own Cisco Scaramusa, get ready to go. Cisco has gotten very much dressed up for the role here today, Evan.
Yeah, if I had Cisco as my crew chief tonight, he's got I think it's a Racing Radios headset. He is ready to go, and Keenan locked in as well, right? I mean, he's going up against, you talk about the likes of Crystal King and some of these other people who we have seen fight for iRacing Pro 4 championships in some of the other special events through the World Cup on CBS Sports. I've seen many of these drivers in the field competing those as well, so it really is a who's who of the best talent in what is one of iRacing's still newest disciplines on the service, but quickly in the last couple of years, that kind of hierarchy of top talent has been developed really quickly. Well, we did say qualifying wasn't the end-all be-all, Arjuna, but it is an important first step, and right now everybody out there on track for the qualifying session. Just a little bit under 4 minutes left for these drivers to lock in their times, and that'll then seed them into the heat races.
And the thing that you noted instantly, Connor Barry, two-time iRacing Off-Road Series champ, took a shortcut towards the line, sets the provisional pole with a 1:14.5. Effectively now will give him one more attempt to go with 3.5 minutes left in the session. You can see the track already starting to shift the dirt around. We're not going to see any resets as far as I'm aware. And in an open setup format, these drivers will very much have to adapt the truck around them. Trenton Briley knocks the wall down coming through Calamity Corner, will invalidate his lap, and we'll have to go once again. Connor Barry, World Championship driver, Quinton Del Olmo, Terry Miller, Crystal King, Tom Grady, Keith Jeffrey, all World Championship Series drivers. The only exception up towards the front right now, Evan, is Aaron Vasquez in that Altus Esports number 5.
He's looking good now, and the irony with getting your lap time disallowed in the qualifying session there, of course, with an incident point as we go on board with Vasquez, and he's going to head down that long back straightaway, highest speed portion of the track, into basically a left turn hairpin for turn number 4 as he'll take it easy around there, maybe get set up for a fast lap the next time through. Is that if you were to get into the K-rail like that in the race, or even get into another truck, that's fair game in these Pro 4 trucks, right? The big thing driver etiquette-wise is you really don't want to make contact bumper to bumper, right? You don't want to hit somebody square in the back end or vice versa, but a little bit of door banging, not against the rules. But in qualifying here, you cannot do that because that will, as you mentioned, disallow your lap time. So you kind of have to run a perfect lap here in qualifying, which is funny because once we get into the race, I don't know if we're going to see a perfect lap. Things get real crazy there as we go on board the suspension cam of Connor Barry's number 1.
You always see how adaptable these trucks have to be as well, and you're right, perfect laps, well, unless you break away at the very front in a short course race, unlikely to happen. And we talked about the distance of these races as well. They are a pretty short, frenetic runs. Still provisional pole. Let's watch how Barry attacks this course, running through that infamous tree curve where we're going to see so many sends attempted. This is where the race start occurs. The drivers filter their way into what is a very wide and open right-hander, and now double left coming up. Couple of jumps setting up into it. 900 horsepower. Connor Barry setting the truck up early to make sure he's moving where he needs to go.
And that right then left complex, what I referred to right when we were talking about the land rush start, the tricky thing is, if anybody can stay side by side, they'll probably be 3-4 wide into there when we go into the feature race. The issue is you can't simply stay all the way to the right-hand side of the racetrack for the right-hander and then go through the corner and stay right? You kind of swing left, cut it, you apex kind of that whole segment. That's the problem when you got 3 or 4 trucks in there side by side, is you're bound to make contact, which is what makes the land rush start so tricky. I've seen many drivers not even want to deal with the land rush start, lay out at the start, let everybody else send it in there to turns 1 and 2 on the start at least, and then try to sneak through and pick up some of the pieces. But there is no one-size-fits-all strategy, as Vasquez has fallen from second to third, I should say. Crystal King up to the number 2 position. 30 seconds left on the clock as they try to lock in some late times. Vasquez across the line there, 1:14.568. It's an improvement, but not enough to improve in position, and you saw Aaron's reaction there to that.
And the important thing, Connor Barry didn't improve on his second lap attempts. Crystal King did. Trenton Briley does as well. And so clearly only a handful of drivers were able to find the improvement as the track continues to shift around the dirt. Here's Keith Jeffrey in the Nitro Circus sim racing truck to the line. About 9,000 slower than the previous fastest attempts. And so it means that Connor Barry, the king of the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, is back on top here for the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship. 2 races, of course, up on deck. It's the slightly shorter heat race, just 6 laps, but still with a 10 white start that is up first. Let's take a look at how they'll line up with Connor Barry, Crystal King, Aaron Vasquez, Tom Grady, Quinton Del Olmo, Trenton Briley, and then still Terry Miller, Sean Winkler, Keith Jeffrey, and Alex Abady making up the front row. Second row, and on the very inside, and maybe in a slightly advantageous spot, it's Cody van der Veer, while Brock Smith on his left-hand side will be alongside Daniel Solo, one of the few Europeans in the second super session of the day, Jacob Stiverson, Sean English, Keenan Kusin, Cole Fisher, and then Tommy King as well, as Miles Morse and Keith Long make up the rest of the 20 drivers that get ready to do battle. We've seen our fair share of short course races, but I think the one thing that we always come into with no expectations, Evan, are these land rush starts.
They are so tricky. Remember, number 1 seed going to be to the left-hand side of your screen, but flip it around driver's perspective. There's the black and blue entry, Connor Barry. Number 1 spot is on the right-hand side of row number 1, all the way down the line. 1, 2, 3, all the way through 10, and it's the same thing on that second row. So behind Connor Barry lined up, P11 qualifier in this race. That's Cody van der Veer, and P20 is going to be all the way to the left-hand side of the row, right-hand side from our perspective of Keith Long. Connor Barry, one of the best to do it. He wants to add another big win to his resume, but he's got 19 drivers to go through as they're about ready to take the green for the heat race.
Quickly before we get going, final trucks getting on the line. Evan, where would you want to be on this start?
I kind of like being 3rd or 4th in line, either front row, right-hand side, or honestly, P11. Let's watch out for that second row.
Here we go for the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship. Through the land rush start and over the bumps. Already Quinton Del Olmo and that Virtual Drivers by TX3 truck getting a little bit squirrely after some contact, but it's Connor Barry that leads them as the 17 of Cole Fisher loses out. Aaron Vasquez on his case for the very lead. Up and over a couple of trucks will go. One truck takes a shortcut. It's chaos for a few.
And there was the 5 wide, exactly what we thought was going to happen, but some drivers from row 2 did luck out. Daniel Solo jumps into the top 10 early. He was from the second row, avoided a lot of the contact, but the battle up at the front of the field. They're all chasing down Connor Barry, your pole sitter, gets away with the lead. Aaron Vasquez by Crystal King for second. He'll look to the inside as we are officially underway for race lap number 1.
And that's the sometimes weird thing about these land rush starts. We don't technically see the first official lap until halfway through the lap itself. There's Del Olmo in that Thrustmaster livery green machine trying to squeak on by Tom Grady. All as Connor Barry leads them down out of turn number 3. Short run, or maybe a long run depending on how you look at it, in towards the braking zone. There's a look to the inside by Trenton Briley. The number 2 machine forces Van der Veer a little bit wide. It's elbows out racing here in short course action.
And now down the back half of the racetrack after that hairpin turn 4, it gets real technical back to where we started, but at speed. Sweeping right hand, turn number 5, you dip down into the valley, and they divide the barn turn, the left-hander for turn number 6. Opportunities to slide in front of somebody else, no major moves there. There's top 3 of Barry, Vasquez, and King trying to open up a small advantage over the battle for P4. Trenton Briley under fire. Van der Veer can't find a spot on the inside in turn 7 there.
You would expect that those at the front aren't going to fight too much, but maybe for Vasquez in particular, he'll be getting a good sense for how the rest of the drivers compete. He'll have his Altus Esports teammate Killian Del Olmo to fall back on, although Killian not in this race here today. It's instead Quinton Del Olmo flying the flag for the Del Olmos. Here's a look at the start where it's just madness into the corner, and then as they just all get squeezed out wide, one of the Nitro Circus machines gets mixed up. Alex Abady takes avoiding action as well before he gets flipped anyway. And there's a pink truck that just yeets it across the shortcut.
It was not the result that a couple of those drivers wanted, but I'll be honest with you, Keith Jeffrey got sideways in the 7 pretty early, and then somehow managed to find his way through and stay in a P9 spot. So some of these drivers got pushed sideways, but kind of used the cars pinching them to anchor them to the racetrack, and they didn't get kicked up or spin out or flip like some of their fellow competitors. And kind of that logjam middle of the road worked out somewhat in their favor. You've got about the top 4 cars within 2 seconds of the race leaders, as Briley trying to not allow those top 3 to get away. He wants to be a part of this battle just as much as anybody else. You jump on the onboard camera there as we watch the battle for first position. As you can see on board with Crystal King looking up to Vasquez still second. Barry still in first position, a familiar spot. The number 1 truck, the number 1 seed. Based on iRating and the strength of field representation, he's up front. He feels like he's where he should be. And this 6-lap sprint for a heat race means that, again, it is tricky to lock into a rhythm. You can't back off at all. It has to be 110% every single time around, especially when you've got these hairpin corners like this one. If somebody wants to make a dive bomb, they can make a dive bomb. No takers there in the top 4, but the battle for 5th may be where it's at.
Plenty of action as Keenan Kusin continues to try and work his way on forward. Kusin, someone that we've seen across of the trucks and rallycross cars improve on the dirt, was part of our iRacing All-Star Invitational earlier this year. The support series in effect for the main World Championship drivers, and now as Quintin Dallomo peeks up the inside and through the double left-hander with the jump on entry. Long way around for the Big Fan Esports car to defend. Dallomo on the recovery after a slightly disappointing start will be able to get on through. These drivers not totally dropped by those up in front of them, although at least for the time being, Van der Veer has Tom Grady now trying to put the pressure on as the Legion Speed Sport car, we once again ride from this wonderful suspension camera, crosses the line heading through the opening sector.
And some of those drivers from that second row, not to toot my own horn, but you did ask me where I'd want to be, and I said if I can't be on those first 3 or 4 spots to the right-hand side of the front row, I want to be the first couple cars on row 2, right? Well, your race leaders started first, third, and second respectively. That's the inside of the very front row. And then behind them, Van der Veer started 11th. He's up to 5th. Daniel Solo started 13th. He's up to 7th. Those were trucks from the inside part of row number 2. So it does pay dividends. Not that I think any of these drivers have that type of laser precision to qualify P11 over 10 or vice versa, but it goes to show that there were opportunities from the second row, and some drivers took advantage of it.
Exactly, and staying out of trouble is important as well. Sometimes you can't. Dallomo was in the middle of the row, and so when things squeezed on in, he lost out, unfortunately. Now passes Solo in that Alcantech NHR Esport number 11, and is back up to 7th spot, qualified in 5th, and only about 2 seconds off the back of Tom Grady, who's still working to try and pass that number 9 machine. At the very front, though, Connor Barry is not totally broken clear of Vasquez, King, and Briley, but is very much in danger of doing so, as we can take a look at both Crystal King and Aaron Vasquez working their way through in towards turn number 3. As Briley closing up the margin behind. I'm very impressed, again, by Aaron Vasquez, someone that may not have too much experience in these trucks, and it's as the dirt moves that the drivers with more seat time at the end of the day, Evan, will have a bit more experience. Here's Crystal King trying to take advantage of that.
It's a good look at both of those drivers involved in the battle for P2. And you're right, as this racetrack changes, and we'll see it, of course, when you get some of the longer races as well, with several heats and whatnot, you get a little bit of the blue groove, the racetrack gets rubbered in a tad bit, you got to go different directions. The other big thing is, for somebody who doesn't race this type of discipline often, is just that driver discipline and kind of the do's and don'ts isn't really equatable to many other series here on the service, right? I was talking about bumper to bumper or front to rear contact, not okay, side to side is. That's an example right there. Crystal King doesn't go into the back bumper to Vasquez. She slides in next to him, gives a little bit of a tap to the left rear. Now this time, turn 8, final time as we come to the white flag. By turn 8 through, she tried to get to the right quarter panel. So it's that gamesmanship that is specific to short course that somebody like a Vasquez has to pick up on, and he's done a stellar job leading this trio. The battle for P2 may be all they can get, though, because Connor Barry off of turn 3 and down the backstretch, he'll top out at about 105 miles an hour before they get to turn 4. He is on cruise control.
And it's often great when you're a leader and we don't talk about you too much. 2-time iRacing off-road champion, has the number 1 overlaid on the number 2, which is the number that he runs in the real world. Of course, Barry takes the championship prize money and puts it forward to his real racing career. It's always curious to see in a discipline where you would rely so much on the physical nature of the car to understand what's going on, Evan, how well he translates that over to the sim.
And he continues to grow his advantage. There's no traffic in front. Connor Barry looking to go pull the checker and end this heat race with a statement. Meanwhile, behind for second, King tries to get to Vasquez. Can't do it with 1 corner left.
Just not close enough, but it is up towards the front where statement made by Connor Barry that he's not here to play. Wins the heat of the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship, and now, still, with the main event lying ahead, will be on the very best spot possible, potentially starting on the inside of the 10 wide land rush formation. Plenty of other drivers cycle their way towards the line. In that crucial 10th position, though, Terry Miller will be on the outside of row number 1. It's Keith Jeffrey that will line up on the inside. And Evan, I think you're right. Starting on row number 2 might be the preferred option.
It's a bad beat, right, for that to be the difference. P10, a better result than a P11, but it is going to be, I think, pretty consequential in terms of where you start this next race, right? These drivers have a few minutes to warm up and to kind of analyze what we saw there, right? The lowest finishing cars of those who started inside of the top 10, so on the front row, were 7, 8, 9, and 10. So those outside trucks all finished 10th on back in this race, all beat by drivers who started on the inside of the back row, the likes of Salo and Keenan Kusin, actually most impressive coming from the middle, but Cody Vanderveer certainly taking advantage of it. So again, you want to be on the inside of each respective row, and it's kind of tricky to make that happen. It's not the end-all be-all, but I think these drivers now, with one race under their belt, have a good opportunity to kind of gauge some of their competitors and figure out what, if any, adjustments they can make with a 3-minute warm-up session coming up next before we go for the feature.
And so let's quickly grab a look at the race results, which is, again, how they'll line up. So top 10 front row for the main event: Connor Barry, Vasquez, King, Briley, Vanderveer, Grady, Dalomo. That's very much the danger zone in that middle of the row, while Solo, Kusin, and Miller all did find their way on forward in their own various regards. Will be interesting to see how they get on the outside. Keith Jeffrey, then Sean Winkler and Alex Abady. They'll be on the inside of the second row, while danger zone back there: Miles Morse, Cole Fisher, Brock Smith, Keith Long, Tommy King, Jacob Stiverson, who dropped to 1 lap down in the closing stages. Not sure what happened there. And then Sean English, one of the victims of the early stages. Quite remarkable that despite the fact that I think we saw 3-4 different trucks roll, only 2 cars off of the lead lap. And you're right, the warm-up session that we've got right now, the final opportunity for drivers to head out there and to maybe tweak their trucks. I see Trevor Teal in the Nitro Circus sim racing camp cheering on his charge, Connor Barry. Of course, the bigger teams, we talk about experience, Evan, they also understand what changes to make, even with the dirt getting a big refresh here earlier this year.
Yeah, that's where that experience is going to come in, right? And we'll see over the course of a season, over the course of a championship, does that experience give you an opportunity to separate yourself from the rest of the field? Absolutely. In a one-off special event, super session, winner take all, right? How much of that finesse and those finer details, how much of that can you squeeze out of yourself when we're racing for a 6-lap heat and then a 10-lap feature for all the marbles, right? That's going to be the question. And then the funny thing about these trucks, and really it applies to most vehicles on the Service Junior, is you can't force the truck. These are physical trucks. You could make contact, you can beat them, you could bang them. They're going to make it to the end of the race, but you can't just will it to accelerate off of the corner better. So the 4-wheel drive helps in these Pro 4s, but you can't overdrive it. It's actually funny how smooth you need to try to be in these trucks in order to be fast. We see the same thing on the rallycross side as well. So all of that is very easy to say when you practice and you get comfortable, but then again, when we lined you up 10 in a row for a land rush start at Crandon, all of those nuances, how many of those can you remember before you just put the elbows up, slap the visor down, and go for it?
I always wonder as well, when it comes to these trucks, which can take a bit more contact than the rallycross machines that we saw in World Championship competition before them, how drivers feel about using the truck. The bump and run in NASCAR, for example, that's something that's part of the culture, but in road racing, that's definitely not. Drivers have to get comfortable with being willing to be physical. They're ready to go there for 10 laps. Let's run you down through the starting grid once more while Connor Barry, Aaron Vasquez, Crystal King ran away at the front, and will try and do so once more, but Trenton Briley, Cody Vanderveer, and Tom Grady didn't let them run away. Will be trying to put the pressure on, but very much in the danger zone. Quintin Del Lomo found out just how dangerous that middle of the front row can be. He'll have Daniel Solo, Keenan Kusin, and then Terry Miller alongside. Terry Miller, the oldest holder of an iRacing World Championship Series license. You've got Keith Jeffrey and then Sean Winkler on the inside of the second row. Alex Abady and then Miles Morse, Cole Fisher, Brock Smith, Keith Long, and then Tommy King will roll alongside Jacob Stiverson and Sean English. Again, exactly how they finished at the end of 6 laps. This time we had 4 more laps, and with the track evolution already having played its part, they're racing with the Landra start once again. 10 wide into the opening corner, they'll go. Connor Barry's got a great jump. 3 trucks already taken out with major contact before they get into the right-hander. Barry leads them as Terry Miller got caught out as well. Vasquez, King, and the rest of them cycling for some valuable track position. This is definitely a much more chaotic start.
Miller on his latest, Sean English wrong side around that truck out of this race, and Tommy King over the wall and done. It is chaos in the opening 2 corners, but some things never change. First out of the madness is pole sitter Connor Barry. Aaron Vasquez through to second, but Crystal King getting beat up in the battle for third. She'll get ushered out of the way there and has some words for Keith Jeffrey as he gets through to third. She'll drop the P4, and it's no cleaner right there in the battle for 5th in the center of the field.
Still waiting for timing and scoring to figure out that 3 drivers have taken the tow back to pit lane. Tommy King, Sean English, and Terry Miller all done and dusted. It's Barry that leads them once again, but Vasquez much closer than he was on the opening lap of the heat. They've got some more separation to Keith Jeffrey behind, but as they slide their way on in, there was definitely a crowd just sandwiched 3 wide. They peel off the corner. It's Tom Grady on the outside and number 8, Trenton Briley, as well as Sean Winkler alongside us. Once again, returning to where they started in through turn number 5. Long way around for Trenton Briley, and he makes it stick.
Makes it work, continuing to make some moves. It was Winkler who was the one stuck in the middle of the 3 wide previously, and now how about 2 wide, a couple of rows deep, now maybe 3 trucks wide. As to the inside goes Jacob Stiverson, trying to establish inside positioning. 3 wide again. All of this goes on in the battle for right around in the midfield as these drivers try to settle who's going to get away with 5th and who's going to get stuck in the midfield forever. More contact there. Turn 8, one of the slowest corners on track, continues to pack a punch as we are now on lap 2 of 10, and all of this midfield contact has allowed the Connor Barry, Aaron Vasquez party to dip. They have checked out by almost 2 seconds over everybody else already.
Cody Vanderveer trying to get past Stiverson. Remember, great run in the first heat of the night for Stiverson, or rather for Vanderveer. Stiverson the one that was 1 lap down and now trying to crack his way into the top 10. And like Evan mentions, I don't think we're going to see Aaron Vasquez put the pressure onto Connor Barry just yet. Although having said that, track evolution might not be his friend. Sliding through turn 5 once again, leaning on one another. Alex Abady joins the party as Vanderveer and Stiverson over the jump find themselves squabbling and opening a lane for Abady to try and switch up underneath. The 3 of them make contact once more. The beating and banging's not done.
Stiverson, the one who loses the most in that, just because the truck got sideways, and it's going to allow Cody Vanderveer to get away. 3rd man in on that party, trying to steal a little bit and make up some position. The 13 of Keenan Kusin. He'll get a spot out of it as he will continue his march. Meanwhile, up in the battle for 3rd, Crystal King got moved by Keith Jeffrey on lap 1, and the favor has been repaid. The 6 truck now goes through, and she did it the long way around. Turn number 8, so a nice clean and technically difficult pass for Crystal King to get back on the podium. Keith Jeffrey slides down to 4th. Daniel Solo right there in P5. Kind of the end of the calmness up front relatively, because behind it's a lot of contact and a lot of driver radio chatter as there's more contact there in the background in the hairpin at turn 4.
And speaking of radio chatter, let's go and take a look at the spotter and driver communication, or maybe lack thereof right now. Keenan Kusin on the outside in that bright purple Big Fan Esports truck has got Cisco Scaramusa as his spotter. Not necessarily giving him that much info right now.
And maybe that's a good thing. You know, relatively, he's going to have a car to the inside as the 18 truck of Brock Smith is trying to challenge, and it looks like, and again, this is a driver and spotter preference, as they're actually making a contact behind, is that you can see a bit of a chatter there. Some drivers want their spotter to kind of be a big picture type spotter, right? There's two trucks behind you, they're fighting, there's contact, right? They're closing, they're dropping. Others don't want that because they are comfortable enough either deciphering that information from their own mirror, or they do not care until that driver actually gets next to them. It seems like Keenan preferring Cisco to be a little bit more matter of fact. Tell me when a car's actually there, and tell me if there's contact behind, but I don't need the play-by-play. And again, that's a decision that comes down to every driver-spotter parent.
And of course for Keenan Kusin in the middle of a, is he calling it a subathon, streamathon, whatever he's calling it. He's been streaming for about 120 plus hours straight or something like that. So we'll have a chat with him at the end, see how he's doing, how insane he's been going through all of that. My eyes don't deceive me though. We're about to come to the end of the 4th lap of racing, and Aaron Vasquez is keeping Connor Barry honest. This is something that I would not have expected. Yes, Crystal King dropped back slightly by the fact that Keith Jeffrey made himself known in the early stages, but we keep saying new to the truck, new to this form of racing. There's no one better to really test yourself against than Connor Barry, but at the same time, Evan, no one better to run behind and learn from.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, you're going to pick up so much knowledge, and you can make notes pre-race. You can even watch Connor Barry's line in practice, but running behind in a race pace and not only seeing what the one's optimal line is, but then when I get to his inside or I get to the bumper close enough to challenge, how does he react to that? What is a defensive line for the one at Connor Barry, right? What is an offensive line for the one at Connor Barry? Kind of make those notes and see if you can pick anything up. It is just going to be difficult to learn and to make passes as the race goes, right? Typically, you get a guy like Connor out front, and it's going to be tough to challenge, but we'll continue to monitor those intervals. Up front, the gap is half a second. Back here in the battle for 7th, a lot more going on as we go on board with Sean Winkler. He had the advantage of starting towards the inside of the 2nd row, and he's up 4 spots because of it. More so, I think, trying to defend a challenge from Quinton Dalomo, who's been all over him in that green and black number 3 truck for the last few laps.
Gotta say, Quinton Dalomo's race today is kind of the story of his 2023 iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, in that plenty of speed, yes, we've seen him charge his way up through, but maybe not always luck on his side. Looks at the inside of the Racecraft Academy car. Sean Winkler in virtual reality, something we don't often see in too many other disciplines at the top level, but here, off-road short course racing, the ability to look around in what are frenetic short races, very, very important. And important to be able to see the fact that virtual drivers by TX3 car, a truck of Dalomo is trying to get to the inside, but not necessarily enough room to do so. Back up towards the front, halfway through this race, Crystal King's losing some ground in the margin to try and close up towards the front. Connor Barry increasingly under pressure.
It has been very impressive how Aaron Vasquez has been able to stay with Barry. There were points where the gap started to grow, and it was easy for me to think, all right, there it is, right? Anticipating Connor to flip the switch and check out like he did in the heat race, but that has yet to happen. Aaron has bounced back and kept the pressure on every single time. Battle for first, top of your screen. Behind them, it's the battle in the midfield for 6th on the inside. They're trying to get up to P5, a Trenton Briley. For the most part, though, he has stayed out of most of it up front. Now 4 laps to go from the Crandon International Raceway. Only one driver going to walk away with the iRacing Crandon Pro 4 Championship win.
Still Connor Barry, though, that's keeping himself a car length or 2 clear. Move to the inside from Tom Grady. He almost mounts the berm through turn 2 as he still works on the Alcantech NHR. Number 11, the shiny chrome, and not really belying the fact that that number 11's been through the wars for Daniel Solo. Look at how they sling it into this corner as well. Couple of different approaches, and some drivers yoinking on the handbrake. Solo gets bullied out wide and drops to the edge of the top 10.
So he'll get forced down to the midfield. 19 of the 20 trucks who started this race still in it. Only Sean English, who went out of the ballpark on the first lap, is not currently on track. And what a shot of the best corner on this racetrack. That flying left-hander through to the bar turn as they go down the gap to turn number 6. One of the best corners, I think, in all of racing. Again, that suspension shot is the perspective of Dalomo trying to get aggressive to the inside. Winkler, Briley, they're side by side for 5 and 6. How do they navigate the slow turn 8 hairpin? Bit of a cross attempt by the 4, and now Dalomo getting more physical. He'll scrape some paint off on that concrete wall.
That final corner's nicknamed Calamity Corner for a reason. Tom Grady bounced off the wall through turn 1, able to bring it back into line, but not without a loss of time. I've got to say, this is some fantastic fighting. 3 laps to go. It would be great if Connor Barry and Aaron Vasquez were to treat us to something similar, but at least right now, Aaron Vasquez almost a 10th slower last time by, just about hanging on to the tire tracks of your race leader as they continue to extend their margin from behind. It is starting to settle in for these drivers as well. If Vasquez wants to make a move, he spent the last 7 or so laps, Evan, figuring out where Connor Barry potentially could make a mistake.
And is he going to be able to take all of this knowledge and maybe the poking and prying that he's done over the last 8 laps? If I go to the inside here, how does he react? Has he been formulating, I like that move, I'll save that one for later, or, well, he reacted well. He sealed that one off. Maybe I don't want to make the move in that corner. Is it going to be that technical of a decision for Aaron Vasquez, or is it simply going to be who can push the hardest? And a bit of a mistake there from the 5 truck as he came through the left-hander, made contact with the K-rail, and now the gap has grown to the biggest we've seen all race long.
And all it takes is one mistake, and instantly, once again, we see the reaction there from Vasquez, not thrilled. These trucks are not easy to control. They're so big and lumbering, and as they slide over the dirt, you're having to preempt what is going to happen. You can't be reacting to what the truck is doing. You need to be thinking in advance. The margin over a second as they work through turn 5 for the penultimate time of asking. It will be white flag in hand next time by, and Vasquez may have made a crucial mistake. Meanwhile, Dalomo and Grady still finding the ways to battle for 7th spot.
And the good news for Winkler and Briley is they've been able to get ahead of this, and Dalomo, who was once a part of the battle for 5th, now may fall to 8th if Tom Grady is able to get the better hand on him. This down on the inside of turn number 6, and it's going to be a couple of hairpins. This one sets up well for the 8 truck. As Grady's on the inside, he will usher Dalomo out of the way. Clear for 7th. Dalomo falls to P8. He'll seal him off there on the K-rail. What can the 3 truck do to respond? Bit of a touch there. Slowest corner, turn 8. White flag in the air. Race win up for grabs, and spots throughout the field still up for grabs.
There's only a couple of drivers that have nothing really to worry about, Crystal King being one of them, potentially Keenan Kusin as well. But the rest of the field very much is hoping to maybe move forward, hoping to hold on to some valuable positions. Dalomo still looking forward to try and now get past Grady once again, but in towards turn 5, final time. It's Connor Barry, still 8/10 clear of Aaron Vasquez, who tried and tried and tried, but one mistake was enough to see the 2-time champ slide away.
The last lap for Connor Barry was a 1:15.6. That's about what we've been expecting out of him. But Aaron Vasquez put down a slower one courtesy of that mistake, and so far unable to bounce back. He has closed the gap, but maybe gap management for the one man who didn't make a mistake, and that's the race leader into the final turn, Connor Barry.
This event last year didn't go his way, but after defending his championship, Connor Barry wins the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship and proves why he might just be the best to do it on the dirt. Aaron Vasquez can be very proud about the run to 2nd place. Crystal King, Keith Jeffrey, and then Trenton Briley will make up the rest of the top 5. It's always great to come back to the big house, and maybe it's fitting that Connor Barry, the side of his 2 iRacing Off-Road Championship Series wins once more, Evan.
And for Connor, I feel like he'll think this is a successful defense of his territory, of his house. This is what Connor Barry does professionally, is win dirt races on the short course side here on the iRacing service, and it goes far beyond just the simulation when it comes to his success in these trucks, but this is what he does. And to that point, Aaron Vasquez, an incredible showing, finishing right in between the names like Barry, King, Jeffrey, Briley, names who we see in the World Championship, in some of the biggest of the special events and the private events here on this side of the iRacing world. Aaron Vasquez with an incredible showing, but it all goes back to that one single mistake. And when we're in a 10-lap dash, it's just not an option against that type of World Championship talent.
And it is 1.1 seconds at the end of the day that Conor Barry won by. Doesn't maybe reflect how difficult a challenge Aaron Vasquez really posed, but the Altus Esports machine was no match for the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, the #1 machine at the very top. Crystal King will grab a very well-earned podium spot after breaking away from Keith Jeffrey, who just managed to fend off the likes of Trenton Briley, Sean Winkler, Tom Grady, Quinton Dallomo, Cody Van der Veer, and then of course Daniel Solo, the final driver, squeaking into the top 10 with, out of these drivers, only Sean Winkler and Keith Jeffrey starting on row 2, row 1 faring a little bit better the second time of asking. Alex Abady, Keenan Kusin, and then Cole Fisher rounding out your top 13 with Stiverson, Smith, Morse, Long, King, and then Miller all on the leading lap. Sean English once again, though, unfortunately, a DNF after what was a rather unfortunate day for him here at the Crandon International Raceway. We'll stand by and hope that a couple of the drivers will be able to jump on in and give us a bit of a chat after that race, hopefully Conor Barry, Vasquez, or King. But short course racing, Evan, if people have never watched it before, this was just a little bit of a taste. And just a reminder that new memberships are 40% off if you head to iRacing.com. There's never been a better time to jump into these trucks with the new updates they had earlier this year.
It really is true, right? And we talked about the variety of what kind of different races we see on this iRacing special events calendar. This is only a fraction of what you can do here on the service, and I stand by that short course is some of the most exciting stuff, whether you're a pro or a Joe like me out there having fun with some friends on an evening. This stuff is so much fun, but from the dirt to the road, from the ovals to the high banks and everything in between, iRacing.com is how you can get your sim racing career started, where every day is race day.
And of course, still with plenty more special events to come. We will talk about that in just a few moments' time, but let's see if we can drag in Mr. Keenan Kusin himself. Keenan, do we have a copy?
I hope so.
We got you loud and clear. Well, talk us through that. Another run at Crandon. This looked quite interesting from your perspective.
Yeah, it was rough back there, man. We had a really, really great heat. I qualified 20th out of 20th on the truck 13 in here. I'm just happy to be here. So we're playing with house money. Had a really great run in that first heat. Got away from all that action in Potawatomi and had a really good run. Finished like 7th or something. Unfortunately, it put me on the outside of the first row. And I really, once it started kicking off, I had nowhere to go. I just tried to make the best of it. I think a lot of us back there kind of realized what we were racing for. Like, this is probably the best finish that we're all ever going to get. So not dirty, but a lot of, the doors here, fenders there, and moving each other out of the way. It was probably the most aggressive racing I've done in dirt road to date. Yeah.
So you're on day 8 of a streamathon. Talk to the people. What's going on behind the scenes?
Not a whole lot that you can't see at twitch.tv/aerotech. But we've been live since last Saturday at 3 p.m. I just turned 30. And I've been as a content creator for 13 years. So I just kind of wanted to throw a little celebration. I thought it was going to be done about Monday night, and here we are. We're doing a charity stream as well while we're watching Formula Drift this afternoon, or this evening now, I guess. So the timer's paused, but it's about 45 hours left on the timer, and it's not running while I'm sleeping. So I will be here for a while.
And, of course, tomorrow we'll see you back here on RaceSpotTV. Talk to us a little bit about the dirt. We've seen a lot of progression from you in 2023.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's been a lot of hard work. I haven't really picked up a new discipline since I picked up sim drifting about 10, 15 years ago. So it's been really, really tough, especially when you're really competitive, to kind of just see people walk away from you and go, that's okay, we're going to get there. I've had a lot of help, thanks to Davin at Big Fan Esports. It's a joke esports team, but look where we are now. Thank you to Dane, wherever you are. for some setup help. And thank you to all the people, all the pro drivers as well, very regularly pop into the stream and go, hey, man, we've got some advice for you. This has been such a welcoming and awesome community, and they just want to see more drivers. So if you watch this at home and you think, wow, that looks cool, just jump into a couple of fixed races. You never know who you're going to run into, and everybody's more than happy to answer questions.
Thanks for jumping in with us, Keenan, as ever, and good luck for the rest of the streamathon. Who knows when it will end?
Yeah, I'd probably never. Thank you to Thrustmaster. Thank you to Next Level Racing. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them either. Thank you for Cisco for being my spotter. And thank you to everybody watching. It's been a heck of a weekend where there's no sign of stopping now.
We'll see him tomorrow here on RaceSpotTV as well for some rallycross action. But we've talked to Keenan Kusin. Let's talk to our winner, Connor Barry, who's standing by with Evan Pasoko.
We're trackside with your race winner tonight for the Crandon International Raceway, and it is Connor Barry, our winner at the Big House. And Connor, that is far from the first time I've said that, but congratulations on this win.
Yeah, it definitely was fun. I think the biggest thing was just trying to basically be smooth. I honestly have not been in this truck since like August, so I was struggling, but hey, we got the win, so.
Hey, tell us about this one. I mean, you start up front for the heat, you win that one with a decent enough gap, but then coming into this feature, Aaron's all over the bumper of you, and aside from that mistake he made at the start of lap 9, he was on the bumper the whole time. What was it like racing with him? And you talk about being smooth. Was that challenging when you had somebody with a lot of speed in Vasquez being all over you for almost the whole race?
Yeah, I saw we came out of the first turn in first, and he was in the second spot. And then I saw that third was kind of like far back, so I knew that he was going to actually stay close because of the trap. So it definitely was hard. I think the biggest thing for me was understanding that he was going to actually race clean, and I think that basically it helped me. I guess I would say it helped me race my race, which I think like helped. I think that was the biggest thing, but I think that he was for sure fast. It looks like we had the fastest lap by 4/10 over third, so we were for sure fast, and he was fast, and I saw that he got into the wall in lap 10, I think, and that's how we got the gap. So I mean, it definitely was hard, but I'm glad that he was there and we got to put on a show.
For some of these drivers, maybe participating in this special event is kind of their biggest race in these Pro 4 trucks all year. Connor, not really for you. I mean, you talk about it's been a while since you've been behind the wheel of one of these things. What's coming up next on your calendar?
I would say next is, I'm not sure yet. I think the biggest thing is just trying to put in some work and for 2024. I think that's going to be our goal, because we need to go out there and we need to win. So I think our speed is I think our speed is good, but it definitely we need to find some more. And then so yeah, I think right now we don't have a plan, but our plan right now is just to keep doing officials and just trying to find some speed.
Well, I know that the next time we see you on track, I'm going to be looking towards the top of the scoring pylon as always. Connor, I appreciate you sticking around and chatting. Again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Well, that's your race winner tonight from the Big House. It is another staple win for Connor Barry.
And like I mentioned, last year didn't go his way, crashed out in the feature event, and it was Keaton Swain, his main championship protagonist, that went on to take the victory. So maybe righting the wrong and jumping back into the truck for the first time. Always great to see Connor. And a handful of World Championship drivers, yes, but ultimately these special events, we said diversity across the motorsport, allowing people across the world to jump into maybe disciplines they wouldn't have seen, but at the same time it's also a chance for us, Evan, to see some of the other drivers. We talked to Keenan Kusin as well, but Daniel Solo, another driver that we saw plenty of speed and charge and working his way forward, Cody van der Veer as well. I always love these special events to see who's maybe going to be in the World Championship scene moving into the future.
Yeah, see, sometimes when you go into a hosted session, Arjuna, it's a bit like a Savannah Bananas game if somebody like me is in the truck, right? It's a little bit sloppy, but it's fun. The special events calendar is like an all-star game circuit, and that doesn't apply to just these trucks because, yes, you're going to get some drivers who come from a different discipline to try something new, and that is the beautiful thing about the service is how many different disciplines you can try, and we saw it tonight with Vasquez make some noise, but it also means that those heavy hitters, those staples of the community can come and shine on another big platform. And again, special events, that calendar is some of the best stuff you'll see on iRacing. And while the Pro 4s now have had their turn, there is many more special events still to come this year.
And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I know the short course community would love it if we say Wheatland should be coming soon, so hopefully a fifth track to add into the mix for these short course machines. Where are we off next when it comes to the iRacing special event calendar? Well, the Michelin Man maybe slightly deceives you. It's not to the home of Petit Le Mans, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, but instead it's to the Virginia International Raceway, America's motorsports resort. We're starting at 11 a.m. Eastern next weekend on October the 21st. It's time to go racing for the iRacing SCCA runoffs. It is a long day for the team behind the scenes and the commentators as well to make this event happen, but we're going to be racing so many different types of cars, 6 different races, all here at VIR. And Evan, it's, again, as with every special event, open to anyone to sign up for.
That's the beautiful thing is we hope that you join us here on the iRacing Esports Network and tune in. I mean, you talk about some of the most picturesque and beautiful road courses in the country. VIR is up there. But of course, if you enjoy this style of racing with different classes on the road courses, or even if you're an off-road racer, if you're a NASCAR guy, give it a try. That is the beauty of the special events calendar. We hope to see you on track, and if not, we hope to have you tuning in with us.
And the best part about it, you can find a machine next week, whether it's the Formula V, the Spec Racer Ford, MX-5, USF 2000, GT4, or the Renault Clio Cup car. Plenty of options to work your way between. 6 hours of wall-to-wall coverage, all here live and exclusive on the iRacing Esports Network. Going to be a lot of fun, so again, remember the time and the place, 11 a.m. Eastern, for all of the fun. For the team behind the scenes, though, at RaceSpotTV, thank you so much for joining us for another round and another stop of these special events. For Evan Pasoko, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us. The big house never disappoints, and today it's Connor Barry taking top honors in the 2023 iRacing Crandon Championship. We'll see you next time, but for now, so long and goodbye.